Good morning, boys. Today we will start with a detective story. Group of dots. Mask overload. Is still watching. Sitting in his car across the street. He feels lust for revenge, as if it were impossible to have a companion sitting next to him watching as well. He could not remember when and where that hellish idea of masks came up. Today he will face it. Thought, what is the danger in dealing with a hired killer? Did not matter. You have passed the questions. There is no need to go back. I want to kill that dirty. And myself. I want to see panic in his eyes. The murderer came out of his cafe. Our friend prepared his camera and made his photograph. The number of hired killers in the city was small. This is because of the massacre that took place between them years ago because of poor coordination. The police were said to have hired them and trapped them in the trap that they have long taken. This greatly reduced the time. For days he held his camera to where he could photograph everyone who enters and leaves the cafe. Everyone knows that hired killers usually gather at that cafe to coordinate after the massacre. One killer seemed surprisingly convenient. Examined his image in his own asset thoroughly, then whispered, "Will not hinder your bony prominence. Your height is right. If it weren't for me, I would have said you were me. Thank you weren't bald. We'd have to have a wig." I agree with him on everything. It was a lifetime deal for the hacker. It was. Especially if we know that he will not kill. All he has to do is wear a face mask. A mask similar to the face of the man who hired him. That night, he goes to a cafe in the far town and fires an incident, so that the tenant man has an excuse for the police. The tenant will do all the work. It was strange. The tenant also put his mask on his face. He was wearing two faces. If we know that his mask was a copy of the mask of the murderer hack, it was a replica of his face. Be sure to have a small but prominent scar under the eye. He tamped his body from the outside with some clothes to look a bit fat. Stop in front of the paid killer. They would have been identical versions without simple obesity and scar. The same mask. The same features. Same height. The view was very strange. They rode their car to their destination. Our friend arrived at the victim's house. Request to meet him. Because the maid knew him, he was one of her employer's employees. He pretended to have a sore throat that prevents him from talking in a natural way. Keen to see the maid's scar. He mentioned before her something about obesity and its problems. I entered into the master's office room. Then I went out. It only took minutes to get the panic he wanted. 2 shots in the heart of his pistol muffler were enough. The head was not preferred, because the pouring blood would have cut off his pleasure in seeing the terror in the victim's eyes. He came out quietly. In an ideal place for police search, he threw his mask into a container, which was unloaded only at the weekend. Everything was done thoroughly. Everything went as planned. Accused of crime. But the scar in the mask, in addition to his absence argument, left no doubt that someone tried to stick the charge because of his personal disagreements with the victim. It was a complete crime. Had it not been for the victim who was buried 2 days later, he would also wear a mask.